Look at Joe. He was panicked all week, but the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are able to hold on by Jeremiyah Love having over 200 yards rushing and absolutely going off. Joe, Notre Dame beats USC by 10. When you go back and you talk about this game and recap it, what are your thoughts?
This game was the perfect way to respond to all the USC fans, the USC media, everybody in the sphere that was talking about how Notre Dame needs USC. USC doesn't need Notre Dame. They don't need to play them. Well, I guess there's some truth to that, Blake. I guess there is some truth to that because Notre Dame really does need, and they do benefit from the fact that they get this layup of a victory every single year that makes the resume look nice.
Okay.
It's such a perfect, nice little piece to everything. And after the whole conversation about the rivalry possibly being discontinued, Blake, specifically with this matchup, I think you saw a version of CJ Carr where he was a lot more human. I think that there was a lot of buildup for who he was as a player, that this belief he was this untouchable, super dominant young phenom. And I think that that's still there. I think that he still has tremendous talent. But we got to remind ourselves, young guys have bad games all the time. Young guys in the sport who are in their first year starting are going to come down to reality every so often. And he was a little off this game. His accuracy was up and down. His decision-making with that really awful pick that he threw was really, really bad. But the big key thing is Mike Denbrock leaned on his run game. And he realized, and this was something that hurt them against Miami, he realized we got to keep getting the ball to Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price. Love has a Heisman moment-like game, one of the best rushing performances in the history of Notre Dame football. And they have a history of running backs that have gone through that program that is incredibly long. The last part with this, Blake, that I think is impressive for Notre Dame. I am not completely just saying Chris Ash, all sins are resolved. But their defensive performance was exactly what they needed to do. They made the necessary adjustments. They were very specific about targeting Makai Lemon and not letting him get going. He was held under 80 yards. Jacoby Lane cooked him a little bit, but it was at the expense of what they needed to do. Right. They needed to be willing to give up big plays to Jacoby Lane if they wanted to keep Makai Lemon out of the mix. And I think that the way that they played defensively was more relentless. The pass rush showed up. They were strong in coverage when they needed to be, and they made the plays necessary when they needed to. USC had a lot of miscues and mistakes, and Notre Dame did a great job at taking advantage of those.
Well, look, 470 yards by your running back room and total yardage gained is absolutely insane. The kick return, which I'll talk about in a minute, and then Jeremiyah Love, to your point, you're right, having a Heisman Trophy winning type of game with 228 rushing yards, a touchdown on 24 carries. He went completely off. Joe Denbrock was giving him the football on 3rd and 7.
He was converting.
And he was converting, which is nuts. I thought Notre Dame absolutely obliterated up front. The offensive line obliterated USC, who the last time USC went halfway across the country got obliterated up front by Illinois. With all due respect, that's who they are when they go on the road. They play really good defensively at home, but on the road, man, they can't – I mean, with all due respect to them, they can't find a way. I agree with you. I thought Denbrock did a great job when CJ Carr – I mean, you could tell he had an off night. If the interception of running around like a chicken with his head cut off and throwing the pick didn't indicate that a young guy was just not on that night, it was indicative of that. And an experienced OC said, listen, we gotta win this one in the rain with a good running game. Price went off. But I look at this game in a couple of ways. When we're just talking about the game, Joe, it was a really nice back and forth there for a while. You got this situation. Let me start off with this. USC is down 14-10, and they go for it on 4th down. And we were tweeting about this during the game. What in the hell is Lincoln Riley doing? Throwing the ball in the flat twice on 3rd down and on 4th down. And I'm not trying to Monday morning
in the rain, by the way.
In the rain. And then you get in a situation where you don't convert. And you go jumbo package in tight, and you think getting the ball to Lane McCree when you have Makai Lemon on the field, why don't you scheme up to the best player and say, we're going to go for it on 4th down. Why don't we live with Makai Lemon? Here's another thing, and this is not to try to take away from Notre Dame. Joe, why were you going to reverse pass with Lemon in the rain?
In the rain. Like, that's the key part. In the rain.
Why would
he
you
drop the ball in the?
By
You're
the
a team
way,
from Southern California. What did you expect?
That also comes after Maava just threw a touchdown pass. Then you get in a situation where you go up after Jacoby Lane, what was it, 66-yard bomb for a touchdown. It looked like a blown coverage.
Yeah,
maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
It was a blown coverage. I mean, we got to be honest with it. Was Christian Gray got cooked? He got
either he's going to make it, either he's going to pick it off, or he's getting cooked. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's just the truth.
He had a tough one,
and they go up 24-21, and then Price has the long kick return for a touchdown. All right. Then you get in a situation where, with all due respect, Notre Dame allowed you to stay in the game, and you kept making stupid decisions if you're Lincoln. They missed an extra point. They made it 27-24. You get the ball back. You get in a situation where Notre Dame gets the ball back. Joe, they miss a field goal. And I'm like, brother, all right, time to go get your best weapon, the football, and find a way. Put him in the slot. Do something. Notre Dame completely outcoached Lincoln in this one. Chris Ash, as they've constantly done. And I'm not trying to take away from Notre Dame, because you lined up and you ran the ball at them and you punched them in the mouth. Does Notre Dame got to clean up this field goal and extra point situation after the
deal with injuries at kicker? So I don't disagree. Special teams needs to be cleaner.
I mean, look, the A&M situation, and then last night, it's regardless of what the situation that you're going through, it's got to get cleaned up. But the bottom line is that Notre Dame did the things that they had to do to overcome in a rivalry game, where Lincoln, I felt like, was a little too tight. And his quarterback didn't give him any help. But if you're going to have one of the best running backs in the country that's going to run like that moving forward, and quite frankly, you're going to get that level of push from your offensive line, that's what's going to allow you to win games. And it was impressive showing from that offensive line of Notre Dame.
And I think this is the biggest thing that Marcus Freeman deserves recognition for this team taking the step forward that they have, is that they are locked in for their big games, and they're now doing a much more refined job of making sure that they don't get caught off guard and that they don't slip when there's an opportunity presented to them. They realized, and they know, and they understand they had to win that game. They have to win the rest of their games confidently. They had to win all the games leading up to this confidently in order to get into the college football playoff. And I think that now the simple truth of this, and we talked about this, you win this game, you are now in the driver's seat of getting into the CFP. You now just have to win out with a couple of maybe tough matchups against Pitt and Navy. They have full control of getting to the playoff as long as they finish 10-2. The one thing that could theoretically screw them, and I think that this is a totally fair thing, and I think Notre Dame fans need to recognize this. This is a year where there's a really strong chance there could be a bunch of 10-2 teams. And they just need to hope that there is not a better
from the SEC, especially from the SEC.
Well, and I think the Big Ten too. There's a really good chance. We could see a bunch of 10-2 teams. We could see some 9-3 teams with some really tough resumes. I think that they need to really hope that Miami and Texas A&M win out, or at least come dang close to it. And here's where the big problem comes into play. What the hell do you do with 10-2 Miami, 10-2 Texas A&M, and 10-2 Notre Dame? That is where Notre Dame sadly has to root for the teams that they lost to.
Well, here's the thing. Hold on, pause. You have a 10-2 Miami. With all due respect to Notre Dame, you're not getting in.
That's my point.
Right. Well,
that's my point.
You won't have a 10-2 Miami. Let me explain to you why. You got to hope that they win the ACC, yes, because then that boosts you. But here's the problem. Joe, they won't be 10-2. Either they'll be 10-3 because they're playing the ACC title game, or 11-2. So this is my point. Right. So these other teams. So here's the real truth. It really doesn't have anything to do with Miami. Let me explain. You better pray to God that Georgia beats the ever-living shit out of Georgia Tech, and you better pray to God that there's a situation where Louisville or Georgia Tech start losing here, because I don't think it's the SEC and Big Ten that's going to keep you out. I think it's what happened last year with the ACC that's keeping you out of this one.
And the Big 12, too, for that matter, is that if theoretically Texas Tech, with their health issues with Bear Morton, if they lose another game, you've got this is where the chaos comes into play, and that's why I don't want Notre Dame fans to just assume that they're in, because you have those two teams that beat you now stacked up against you, and then laterally you could theoretically have a bunch of other 10-2 teams. You're right. The ACC, yeah, there's a world that happens that complicates things for the matter, where there could be 3 teams from the ACC that are in the conversation, in the discussion.
Yeah, because then what do you do with Louisville?
Right. So this is the whole this is the complex nature of this, and I think that Notre Dame fans are smart enough to recognize this. But at the same time, it's like we start thinking about all these teams. If Louisville needs to finish like 9-3, and I don't want to get into the semantics of all that and the details of all that, but they need to dominate every team that they play, and then just sit back and see how everything looks when it comes decision time.
Let's get to brass tacks here. With all due respect, and don't take this the wrong way, because deep down you know it's true. You have one thing that all those other teams don't have.
What's that?
You got that golden dome on the side of your head. And ratings are ratings.
But Miami's also a big brand, and Texas A&M is also a big brand. Texas is a big brand.
No. Well, Texas is losing another game. They got to play A&M. They're not winning that game.
Well, but this could all come in. This is what I'm saying, is that we don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. So that
I'll make a bet with you right now that Texas.
There's a theoretical world where Texas beats Texas A&M and they're both 10-2, and then it's just an even bigger mess.
I meant that you were a bigger brand than Georgia Tech and Louisville, and if it came down to one of those teams would get the hose and you would not.
Good point.
All right, let's move on here.